Taiwan, the beautiful Isle of Formosa, sits like a bullseye in the Western Pacific's Typhoon Alley. For over a century, levees were raised to contract, disperse, diverse, and detain raging river waters and brought peace of mind to island residents. However, global climate change has increased the prevalence and destructive power of torrential rainstorms, exceeding current flood prevention and protection standards, and rekindling the threat of flood disasters. The losses are heavy during the rainy season, even to the point of losing everything. How should water management strategies shift to meet the new challenges? How should our thinking on water management change to preserve our beautiful island? Taiwan sits like a gem off mainland Asia. It stretches 400 kilometers from north to south and 150 kilometers from east to west. The almost 300 peaks over 3,000 meters here give Taiwan its richly diverse and scenic landscapes. From azure sea waters to winding emerald streams, from lush forests to tightly packed towering cities, water exerts its vitalizing energy throughout and underpins all human activity here. Taiwan's 2,500 millimeters of annual average rainfall is 2.6 times more than the global average. Falling mostly in the spring and during typhoons, rainwater can wreak havoc as it pummels down Taiwan's short and steep river valleys. Zhengwan, a major river in southern Taiwan, has changed its channel at least 4 times in recorded history. No wonder early Han Chinese homesteaders nicknamed it the Blind Snake. Unable to tame its fickle flows, our ancestors turned to sword and lion mandalas, stone elephant talismans, and planting sacred banyan trees in hopes of securing divine protection. In Tainan's Gongqin village, the century-old Baikegi ceremony sustains local worship traditions centered on the heavens, land, spirits, and the river. Modernization in the Japanese colonial period shifted water management away from the spiritual realm and into the realm of scientific engineering. After 8 years of hard work, hydraulic engineers finally brought the Zhengwan River under control, turning its former floodplain into an expansive patchwork of fertile fields. In revisiting this achievement, it was found that engineers applied a flood retention strategy that used open levees to divert floodwaters and silt into holding basins built into the riverbank, which controlled river water levels and effectively reduced flood risk. This open levee system is the progenitor of the modern flood protection concept of on-site flood detention in Taiwan. Afterward, hydraulic engineers applied the levee approach to manage Taiwan's other major rivers and set flood prevention and protection standards appropriate to each to secure life and property, public peace of mind, and agricultural output. Miaoli County's Zhuolan Township, set along the floodplain of the Da'an River, is famous for its Asian pears and grapes. Annual typhoon rains once sent residents into the hills for safety. Today, the Zhuolan Levee safeguards its productive orchards and vineyards.
The embankment burst in the August 1st flood.
and destroyed 1/3 of Zhuolan's fields, hundreds of hectares in all. We took a huge hit. Zhuolan wouldn't be here today without the levee. Taipei, Taiwan's capital. This metropolis, nearly 7 million residents, and social and economic vitality have covered the city in high-rise buildings and asphalt pavement, changing this basin's hydrology, blocking the city's soils from absorbing rainwater, and creating runoff in need of drainage. In the short 3 decades between 1970 and 2000, Xinyi District and Keelung Riverside areas lost 90% of their soil infiltration capacities. In October 2000, Typhoon Xiangsheng rose the Keelung River far above its banks and caused serious flooding. In response, WRA's Yuanshanzi Flood Diversion Project, completed in 4 years, was designed to divert floodwaters upriver into the sea, bringing flood control infrastructures up to 200-year return period standards. Since its completion, Yuanshanzi Flood Channel has been used more than 50 times to divert peak river waters, ensuring the safety of riverbank residents. The UN Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change has found evidence that climate change is having increasingly severe effects. Melting in the polar ice caps is raising sea levels, while coastal erosion, severe typhoon flooding, severe landslides, and droughts have increased in frequency. Threatened by natural disasters such as typhoons and earthquakes, Taiwan is one of the world's top 10 most vulnerable countries. In 2009, Typhoon Morakot inundated Taiwan with over 3,000 millimeters of rain in just 3 days, resulting in multiple landslide and mudflow events and the loss of over 600 lives. The vast low-lying plain that covers much of southwest Taiwan drains slowly, making it a high flood risk area. WRA's flood prevention and protection infrastructures here meet 10 to 25-year return period standards. But the torrential rains on August 23, 2018 broke the 200-year return period threshold, setting the stage for southwest Taiwan's 823 flood disaster. Global warming and climate change are breaking climate and weather norms and increasing the incidence in Taiwan of severe typhoons and torrential rains. All flood prevention and protective works face limits to their effectiveness. Thus, this begs the question, how can we live in harmony with water? Many of the historical eco-ponds that dot rural Taoyuan's landscape are traditional flood catchments used to prevent flood damage. They are now also used for lotus cultivation, as well as to attract eco-tourist visitors, achieving a 3-in-1 win for life, ecology, and industry.
WRA runs a streamlined online disaster prevention platform. When an alert is issued, 60 centimeters of water is drained, with 30 centimeters left, so we can take on 60 centimeters of new runoff. We initiate our autonomous disaster prevention protocols at the start of the spring rains. This is 100% volunteer. We hold the line where the government can't.
Fish ponds also feature prominently in Taiwan's grassroots flood prevention efforts. In the home of farm-raised grouper fish, Kaohsiung City's Yong'an District, fish ponds stretch as far as the eye can see, creating the ideal circumstances to use these ponds as flood catchments.
We have a slogan here in our village. We can't stop disaster, but we can safeguard our families and people. How we use these ponds is, we drop pond water levels ahead of a typhoon to raise detention capacity. This is a really smart approach, I think, as it gives both our team members and fish farmers real peace of mind.
Youcai, in Yunnan County's Baozhong Township, is a small village on the Jiangnan Plain with fewer than 1,000 residents, who farm mostly peanuts and corn. Because it's located at the confluence of 3 major drainage systems, flooding is a frequent occurrence during typhoons and heavy rains. The village received over 800 millimeters of rainfall in the 2018-823 flood.
Get torrential rainfall. The massive volume of runoff regularly spills over into Youcai. The fields to the east of the village are hardest hit during the rainy season, even to the point of losing everything. Hydraulic authorities estimate that traditional engineering methods to resolve Youcai's flooding problems would cost nearly 3 billion NT dollars and take at least 10 years to finish, making such an effort impractical. Limited finances and time challenged the ingenuity of Taiwan's hydraulic engineers. WRA chose to push forward with plans for on-site flood detention and leased 2 hectares of fallow sugarcane fields from Taiwan Sugar Corporation in Baozhong Township to pilot test this strategy. The on-site flood detention approach marks a new milestone in domestic flood control. With no need for catchment ponds, farmers can keep their land and fields need not be lowered. Due to land procurement difficulties and limited low-lying land available for the construction of flood prevention infrastructures, on-site flood detention was chosen to reduce floodwater loading. In fact, field ridges are raised to divert swollen river flows temporarily onto adjacent fields. This effectively reduces floodwater loading on public drains, improving their ability to handle surface runoff. The trapped water is then released after the rain subsides, ensuring maximum in situ floodwater carrying capacity and reducing downstream flooding pressures.
Traditional on-site flood detention uses simple, natural methods in place of artificial catchment ponds for flood control. Once installed, these detention systems are ready and able to divert floodwaters.
To execute the strategy, sandbags and stone gabions were used to raise 2 hectares of field ridges by 50 centimeters, creating 10,000 cubic meters of new holding capacity. Moreover, an automated water level monitoring system was installed throughout to monitor the area and track changes in the water level. During typhoon alerts, flood control baffles are deployed to stop the water from flowing down into Youcai. On-site flood detention is still in the trial stage and has yet to be proven in the field. Thus, the farmers of Youcai are taking a wait-and-see attitude toward this new government initiative.
Our farmers are asking, by raising ridges by 50 centimeters and holding on to water that would have just drained off anyway, is the government subsidy for this worth it? To help alleviate such concerns, WRA engages in dialogue with local residents, conducts objective assessments of flooding and economic risks, and sets fair subsidy rates for participants.
Because they, the farmers, provide the land required for floodwater capture and control, we came up with the floodwater subsidy to compensate them for seasonally filling their fields with water. Landowners in this program don't have their land expropriated or lose their farmers' insurance status. Also, their participation in the program doesn't affect their right to apply for government payments to cover natural disaster-related crop losses. Moreover, the effectiveness of this system and the size of the subsidies mean the government can dramatically reduce flooding risks at a minimal cost.
On-site flood detention not only protects farmer rights and satisfies their expectations, but also respects farmers' desires by preserving their land and fields while creating something new and exciting. Yuliao in Jiayi County is a flood-prone district in southwestern Taiwan. Although heavily damaged during Typhoon Morakot in 2009, Yuliao has just over a decade later struck an equitable water-life balance using an on-site detention approach. This has drawn to the area a steady stream of visitors and economic opportunity, as well as infused new art and culture with the Bald Cypress Forest Concert, embracing nature, ecology, and culture. Looking to further expand this strategy, WRA has deepened its cooperation with Taiwan Sugar Corporation, earmarking over 1,000 additional hectares of farmland for on-site flood detention retrofitting.
This new on-site flood detention concept is different from traditional approaches in terms of allowing for lower levees and working with natural water flows to achieve effective eco-engineering results. I have every confidence it will succeed. Grounded in eco-engineering principles, this strategy reduces the need for new construction and helps sustain local ecosystems, ensuring that habitats continue sustaining their intricately rich webs of life. The residents of Meinong Township in Kaohsiung's rural highlands are proud of their Hakka culture and deeply rooted in their local heritage. This makes them particularly concerned with local affairs. Meinong is situated on the upper alluvial plain of the Laonong River. It experiences flooding, particularly now with extreme weather events. The old section of town where we are here floods out fairly regularly.
Meinong's vulnerability to flooding is due to its low-lying position along the lower reaches of Meinong River. Hydraulic engineering works completed in this section of the river have already effectively mitigated future flooding risks. Next, WRA will work to control floodwater in the river's mid and upper sections, using a more eco-friendly on-site flood detention approach.
I thought they'd be digging catchment ponds, so of course I went out to protest. I met the section chief there, and he explained that instead of building catchment ponds, they would use on-site flood detention. That made sense to me. The on-site flood detention method could end the threat of flooding in Meinong. That would be wonderful. Of course I support the project.
On-site flood detention projects simply require raising field ridges to increase floodwater detention capacity in farmland, and that simple sluice gates be installed to control water discharge, bringing the captured water volume and water levels downstream under effective control.
This will lower Meinong River levels by about 1.1 meters, which might not seem to be very much, but actually, this will allow water to flow directly in from Meinong Lake.
About Meinong's on-site detention project, first I hope it fits in with existing farm operations. Doing project work in the second quarter means it's during rainy season. When it's rainy, we get typhoons and temperatures are high, so farm production in the second quarter is typically lower. Second, providing a regular subsidy to the fields used in this project will be a win-win for all.
Meinong's well-watered landscape supports a thriving water lily industry, the nation's largest. Water lily ponds are not just vibrant wetland ecosystems. They also make exceptional floodwater detention spaces. As these ponds have already been built up, they can hold twice the water volume of rice paddies. Currently, 3.7 hectares of lily ponds, bamboo forests, and rice paddies constitute the basis of Mainong's on-site flood detention project.
Tropical Storm Lupit in 2021 demonstrated the effectiveness of the on-site flood detention system in resolving the chronic flooding problems in the Mainong and Youcai areas. Therefore, we've begun expanding this program. We want to be part of promoting a more natural, more beautiful future for Taiwan. What we do should be good for our citizens, our land, and future generations.
Water control thinking in Taiwan has evolved over a century, from initially scattered individual efforts to pre-war levee embankment construction and more recent water-based strategies, and finally to the cooperative on-site flood detention approach of today. WRA plans in 2022 to expand the on-site flood detention project across more than 300 hectares along the Mainong River and to promote the rice, water, and radishes farming plan, which includes a first-season crop of rice, participation in flood control efforts mid-year, and high-value crops such as radishes, adzuki beans, and cherry tomatoes in the fall. Traditional agriculture is sustained while achieving effective flood control. Also, adding a new white jade radish season can help boost farming value, delivering a triple win to rural villages. Taiwan's hydraulic infrastructure is the bedrock of national prosperity and development. Our hydrological heritage has been shaped by centuries of experience and a desire to find the best way forward. The on-site flood detention strategy, whether applied to Taoyuan's farm ponds, the fish ponds of Yong'an and Kaohsiung, the sugar fields of Youcai in Yunnan, or the rice paddies of Mainong in Kaohsiung, is truly the best way forward for flood control. In the future, all hydraulic projects in Taiwan will apply the spirit of on-site flood detention, integrate the three-crop production model, and build close public-private partnerships to achieve the Formosan ideal of preparing sufficiently for times of drought and avoiding destruction in times of flood, providing a safe home and economic security for generations to come.